my next keynote speaker. It's probably the hardest thing, but the easiest thing for me because Mr. Murali Madhavan, CTO of Smart World and Communications L&T, is also my mentor and boss for several years. Considered a tech guru by many, I'm sure that the next 7 to 10 minutes will be very enriching for all of us. Over to you, Murali.
Thanks for that slightly exaggerated introduction, Bala. But at L&T, I belong to an organization called L&T. Is there a problem? Can you hear me better? I belong to L&T, and at L&T we take safety very, very seriously. It's the most important thing for us. That's why I've eliminated the scenario of death by PowerPoint by talking to you without a slide deck today. So the main theme that I've been given to talk about today is, how to do a POC, from POC to revenue, something like that, how do you, so I want to talk about how a 5G or a 4G or an industrial use case that's heavily dependent upon a network evolve and go through a life cycle of maturity and then reach a stage where it is a full-blown industrial application that is actually bringing benefits both to the provider of the use case as well as to the consumer. Now, I begin with several days of scenarios, right? You would have heard of day 1, day 2, day 3. I start with day -1. How do I know what is the right use case, what is the right pain point, which industry I need to address with what kind of thing? I should not have a inappropriate use case based upon ineffective technology. So this has been the bane of many of the technology-based implementations. So what I would do is to finalize the specific use cases for the specific industries which would address their main pain points with the earliest time frame at the least cost and the least disruption. So to that effect, at L&T Smart World, we did a survey of about 350 global enterprises. To understand, we gave them a questionnaire comprising several questions, very detailed questionnaire, and did the survey to actually determine what are the real pain points from various industry verticals which can be addressed effectively through a 5G and IoT-based implementation. Now, based on this survey, we then looked at what synergizes for us, what are the areas that we would like to address, especially in the India market. We looked at the industry verticals. Now, some of the industry verticals are very close to our own group's area of business. For example, heavy engineering. So, as my friend Arvind Nevatia pointed out, we at L&T Heavy Engineering Complex, we looked at several industry use cases, Industry 4.0 use cases, which could be rolled out quickly with the spectrum available, which was 4G LTE spectrum at that time. And we decided upon, what would be the best network which would support those use cases and so on. So that is the day -1 scenario, as I call it. That is where you know what is the right use case and what would give the best benefit to what industry and what technology is appropriate for it. Then the day 0 of maturity of a use case would start with surveying the customer's requirements. So detailed requirement gathering. You understand what are the operational processes of the specific customer, what are the landscape, and in the case of a network rollout, you would actually go and do a physical site survey using the tools, etc., to determine, what kind of a solution would fit best. Then come to day 1, where you implement whatever is needed to roll out that use case, which could be a network. You might come out with a 5G network, or you might try to leverage an existing network or whatever. But since we have zoned upon those use cases that will benefit from 5G, we would look at how do we roll out a private captive 5G network in that specific surveyed area for that specific industry. So then planning and surveying, planning, solution designing that the specific network, that would be the day 1. And then the day 2 is where the fun starts, when you actually start operationalizing and measuring the key performance indicators of that network vis-a-vis the actual requirements on the field of that factory or a small farm or hospital or wherever you're trying to roll out that, depending on the industry vertical. So now this is where there is a merger and there's a clash of technologies. So you have already got a lot of legacy technology running there, right? You got existing WAN LAN, old routers, old firewalls with their rules which are already set up. And then you have various regulatory hurdles that you cannot connect this to this network, or you can't connect that network. So many things have to be. So this day two is where you implemented your network, but you're actually limping along to get it running. And that's the area where the use case is going to take a lot of time. You're going to break a lot of people's backs trying to fix those issues. So that would be the major hurdle, and recently, along with Vodafone, we have crossed several of those hurdles while we are trialing out that POC network in our AV engineering complex. In addition, we have also looked at the problems faced by farmers. We worked with Mr. Kishore Babu, DDG, who was here, along with Indian Council of Agricultural Research, to look at what are those problems which can be addressed through 5G and IoT technologies, how 5G can be a backbone to using, for example, a massive IIoT kind of use case, where you can roll out many sensors, many sensors using as little of 5G equipment as possible, and then connect all of that back to an analytical engine which will make predictions, suggestions, curative actions, etc., for fixing the farm woes. So this is another trial we have done, and recently we have demonstrated also. You can actually walk into Airtel's booth and you can look at the agro smart use case that we have done there, which is based on an actual agricultural collaboration with ICAR. So that having been done, now the fun starts in terms of keeping it running, meeting the KPIs. So day 3 would be where you're trying to fix the KPIs of the running network, the use case. So the use case has a lot of requirements from the network. I mean, most of the network requirements, most of the requirements or the challenges are usually there's a tendency for IT to dump the issues on the network, and the network to say that the IT is responsible and so on. So there's a lot of back and forth keeps happening, as we have seen quite recently as well. So we keep going through this, and so when you are actually operationalizing and running to some SLAs, you need to take care of multiple aspects, not the least being how do you quickly resolve the issue and fix the problem before actually getting to the root cause of it, and that would require a lot of fallback mechanisms, etc. So these have to be built in from the day one. When you're actually designing the network, you have to design it so that you can recover from errors, even if you don't know what the error is. And that's the day 3 scenario. Now, I've also included here a day 4 scenario in the maturity life cycle of a use case, which would be where that industrial application gets matured over a period of time. You keep adding the scope. So, for example, you will begin very tentatively with a small subset of the scope of the requirements of the customer, not knowing whether this is going to work or not. But then, as you grow confident, as the network and the ecosystem, everything evolves together. I mean, ecosystem including the partner ecosystem of the OEMs. So OEM challenges also have to be fixed along the way. For example, now you connected one type of a camera for video analytics, but then you realize later that that camera is actually sending data somewhere where you don't want it to go. Then you need to look at how do you fix those firmware issues, how do you maybe go for a next version of the camera's firmware, and all of these things get covered while you're operating and running the network to the SLAs. And then finally, in the day 4, as I mentioned, you have to mature that application, mature the use case. Now, so far it was a use case, but now it has come to a stage where it has become a full-blown application, which is supporting the industry, which is bringing efficiency and productivity benefits to the industry, and it's actually making the industry save money and time. And that's where the operator, the poor operator or the service provider, SI, starts making money. So at the day 4 is where everything comes together beautifully, and there's a complete maturity of the application. So this is how we track the journey of a use case from inception up to actually rolling it out as a full-blown industry application. And this is what we have been doing so far, dog-fooding the application, so as to say, within our group. And we are also talking to several industries about rolling out similar use cases for them, underpinned by the powerful 5G network. So that's the summary of what I wanted to say today. If you have any questions, I think there is some time for questions. We can ask questions.
Hi, my name is Vishal Sanghvi. I am social technopreneurs from Bombay. And like L&T has a lot of experience from the past businesses. This is the way. Now we have to create all about 5G businesses, solutions. And so how the L&T policy can help the, academic area and startup ecosystems, give us a strength, their support actually. So, and because 5G is completely new, it's not around the world, anybody have taken leadership. So L&T, how they are readiness to take a leadership out of creating the 5G solution for the industry as well as the better livelihood actually.
Better livelihood, our CSR will comment. I am from the business side. So what I would say is, definitely when you look at the Make in India, the startup ecosystem, etc., as I said, the device ecosystem has to mature a lot. For example, I was just taking the example of a connected camera because that's a real problem for me now. A connected camera that takes a 4G or a 5G SIM card but doesn't send the data to the cloud but sends it where I want it, that's a lacking product. So I need more products like that. So I'm willing to work with startups for them to develop those products and make them commercial available to me.
So I will connect with you, sir. We have developed such kind of, lifetime free cloud
Absolutely.
camera actually.
Absolutely. It's a commercial engagement.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely we'll look at it. Anything? All right. Thank you so much, guys.